number and where I live, and that's about it.
I've had to like stop, get out of my car, and literally like.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult because they're just like little cement numbers like that big, and there's overgrown trees that prevent you from seeing the little tiny number that also isn't lit up at
I'm
night.
just saying, code says you have to have a certain reflectancy to be able to see at night.
Yeah.
So it's technically illegal.
Let's sue them.
All right, what about you?
Okay, I kind of have like a horror story about my roommate last semester. That was
Okay.
a whole thing. It was really bad. I signed with, and I was in a 4-person apartment. I signed with 3 girls and got a random roommate, and from day one, there was major issues with how she was being like non-respectful, doesn't work well with us or anything, and didn't talk. She didn't even introduce herself until the 3rd day of us living there, and like she locked herself in her room for the first few days.
So it's 3 of you that knew each other, and then you had one
A random roommate, because one of our girls dropped out, so, yeah. And so it was, we were really already trying to be nice, you know, and she didn't give anyone but one of our roommates her number. She just wouldn't. She's like, one of you guys have it, that's enough. And we were like, okay. And we tried working with her really well, but it got really bad, and we complained to the apartment complex, like, hey, this is a problem, she's not making this a good place to live. You guys paired her with her, so like, can you talk to her or something, or like, get us moved or get her moved, maybe something, like, we'll all move, honestly, and like, we were like, that's okay, you can move us out, and we're not gonna complain about that if she doesn't wanna move, but like, and they basically were like, we can't do anything about it, we can talk to her, you guys, we suggest you talk to her, and it was just like, she wasn't gonna talk to us, and we have talked to her, and it was just very bad, but we were just kind of living with that, but last semester, it got to a point where she personally targeted me a lot, which I don't know, I literally avoided my apartment, like I didn't go there. I was there to sleep, I left at like 8:30 in the morning, I came back at like 10 or later, like I just was not there. And so, she did not like me. But it got to the point where like I had to call the police on her at 2 a.m. because someone was breaking into my room, but we didn't know who it was. And so like I was like, my door's locked. I usually wasn't awake, but I was because I got home from a midnight movie or something. And it was like 2:30 a.m. and someone just tries coming in my room. My door was locked, and I was like, okay, that really happened. So I was like a little freaked out because she usually works a night shift, so I wasn't expecting her to be there. And so I texted my other roommates because we didn't have her number. And I was like, did you guys just try coming in my room? Like, I just want to be drunk or something, like, what are y'all doing? And she did that. I was like, no, we're both in our rooms. I was like, okay, that was weird. So I went and opened my door, and I was like, hello, like asking the apartment's pitch black, it's nighttime, middle of night, and like I hear someone shifting on the other side of the apartment, hiding behind a wall. And I was like, nope. And I closed and locked the door. I called my roommate on that side, and I was like, hey, do you hear someone outside your door? And she's like, yeah, is that you? I was like, no, but they just tried coming in my room. It was a whole thing. We both freaked out. We ended up calling cops, yeah, to make long story short. We called the cops, and it kind of like, they were like, no one broke in, like there's no tampering with windows or doors, like it is secured from the outside, like no one's broken in. And I was just like, whoa. And we found out that my other roommate was there in her room. She had ended up going back into her room at some point, and I was just like, no, like I'm done. She already gave me really bad vibes before, and now she's like, I'm out. And so from that moment on, I went and stayed at my friend's house that night because I didn't sleep in my apartment again after that. And I went to the front desk the next day, and I was like, I need out of this apartment. Like my other roommates, they stayed because they were like, it's not them. She wasn't trying to go after them. But I was like, I need out of this as soon as possible. And basically got sent on the runaround. So I was at my friend's place for 2 weeks to get a new apartment. So I was waiting like literally 2 weeks without I came by that day with some of my friends, so I had like a backup room and got all my stuff out. Was living out of my car in my friend's house. And this was like a month before finals. So I was already stressed out about that. And it was just a horrible, and they did not handle it at all. I went to the front office like 4 times in that 2 weeks, like, why am I not out of this apartment? And then on top of that, they tried charging me a moving fee. And I was like, no, we're not gonna do that, because I was like, no, this is a breach of contract, because your contract promises I will feel safe in my own home, in layman's terms, basically. And I was like, you're not gonna charge me for this because that's breaking your contract. You promised you'd fix this if this wasn't, and this isn't being met. And that's kind of like what I was talking about earlier with they're trying to take advantage of college students because they think we don't know better, but I was like, we're people, we're smart, and we know what's going on. we know our rights with our contracts, we read them. And so that's like, yeah, my horror story.
Like half of us. Yeah, on contracts. I definitely know friends who are like,
Oh,
all
yeah.
right, I'm in.
If for the half of us, they have friends who have, so, you know, the information will get to them.
So I hate to skip out on you, but I just realized I've got 20 minutes and we've still got some questions. So this time we're gonna, not rapid fire, but we'll just kind of quickly go over these last few questions and then we'll hopefully wrap up. Not hopefully wrap up, we will wrap up. Don't worry. We'll be fine. Okay, so we kind of went over some things that you like about where you're living. What are we've kind of gone over a lot of the bad. What are just a few things that come to mind that you like about where you're living?
I like only having one roommate.
One roommate, okay. Joe Paul, you said your room.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big reason why we picked there is, I like the layout of the room, I like the room, and I like how much I pay. So those are the big things for me.
And
Location wasn't a factor for me in choosing, but now that I have my location I do, I don't want to go any further.
so location was a big thing.
It wasn't, but now it is.
Now it is.
So, yes.
So after you've, but when you were looking for it, it was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Would you like to be as close as you were in the dorms? Did you like having like that on-campus feel, or do you like kind of being a little bit further? What's your location preference there?
I really enjoy my distance from campus because when I was going to Tarleton last year, I lived about a mile from school and I walked or skate from the edge to campus. It's like a mile and a half. Like it's a good distance for like I think it's far enough to where I don't feel like I'm on campus. It's also close enough where I don't have to drive.
So you'd say there is a sweet spot in there.
Yeah.
Would the rest of you
I
say
think
that?
Callaway is the sweet spot. I think it's
That's
for me personally. I think it is a little too close, but like I think with its location, the price that you were talking about is pretty justified. Just, it's essentially a dorm, but without like the hawk of an RL on you.
I think the biggest thing for me is like the parking and like with Callaway at least, they don't have that much available, especially on game days, because it's really hard when you're close to campus, like that location on game days, because I live at Tradition, so I'm on campus, and game, like last weekend, whenever, I don't watch football games, but like we played Tech last weekend, I don't know, it took me like an hour just to get from my apartment, which is on the edge of campus, around to the other side, that's like 2 miles, and I'm like, I really did not like my location then. Yeah.
So yeah, that does play a factor into it, is like traffic and stuff. What about you guys? Anything about location that comes off to the top of your mind, or is it kind of here or there?
I live at the Ave, and I kind of like that it's like away from everything.
So basically what I'm hearing is that like it really is personal preference about location.
I like not having to worry about parking, just
Yeah.
because I'm able to walk or skate. Parking's a non-factor for me. I drive my truck to work. That's about it.
Shut up.
One of these questions is, what should a leasing manager or apartment staff do if they make a mistake? Now, I think, one thing that I've heard from this group, and I think we've kind of beat the dead horse, is like communication. Just kind of being upfront, transparent with people about when something goes wrong. Would you guys agree?
People like to feel cared about when they're dealing with a company. If they're giving their money to something, they want to like get their money's worth.
I will say there are times whenever they freak out people for no reason. Like if it's an internal issue and you can fix it before having to be like, hey Maria, we did this, this, and this, then it just like makes the tenant anxious, and then it's just not a problem at all. So you kind of make it a little.
Right, can you kind of go in on that, because I'm a little confused as to what.
What was it? I don't remember what the situation was, but like it was an internal error, so I think they had like assigned the wrong room or did something.
Yeah.
And so instead of like, hey, like fix it, and then be like, hey, we accidentally gave you the wrong number, here's your actual key.
Like,
They were like, oh my god, you don't have an apartment, like we'll get back to you. And the person's like, am I not gonna have an apartment? I already signed a contract. And then it was a 5-minute fix. So sometimes they freak out people for no reason.
Have any of you lived in both a house and an apartment while living at OU? So mostly just you, Griffin, and you?
I wasn't at OU, I was in a.
Well, okay, so then just while going to college.
Yeah.
So do you guys prefer living in a house or an apartment style more?
Living in a house was, I liked that because I had a backyard. I felt like more freedom, more of a bubble, yeah. Until. But like, I think living in a house comes with more people. More people means more. This is just for me personally. More people means more messes, more things to go wrong. It's really easy to get along with one person instead of three people, and live with one person instead of three.
So what's nice about an apartment is that it's more affordable to live with less people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not dependent on them to make rent.
That's also
Since
true,
that-
yeah, with a lot of collegiate housing.
I was kind of different because I only have one roommate at my house, and we pay separately, so it's kind of not like the way it works is just different. I just kind of got tired of like, you have to take out the trash every Friday, and you have to mow the lawn on your own. So living in an apartment is just, you kind of forget about that, which you do have to deal with like the personnel who take care of that, but it's that versus like you having to do it yourself.
So there's really a pros and cons to each, to where it's just
Yeah.
like, wow, whatever I'm in right now. You know? What would you say to that?
I'll say, I mean, it's because like, I don't know, like I don't mind having roommates. I kind of agree because like I have twin brothers, so I've like always grown with having a roommate. So like it's never bothered me, but like having one versus like right now I have three. So yeah, definitely it comes with more complications. But what I've learned is like, it's like, you know, it's like if you are choosing to do something yourself, you're choosing that, and you have to deal with the cons that come with it, you know? And then like if you are like at an apartment, if I was living at, when I used to live at one, they provided personnel that would take care of it. And if you are providing personnel for that, then they should be well adept to get it done quickly. Yeah.
What would you say? What would you say is better for you in school?
What do you mean?
Like I'd say that. Do you think that you like living in an apartment right now because amenities and stuff like that because you are in school, rather than if you weren't going to school?
I think it's preference because like for me, like I know if something goes wrong, I can at least try my best to fix it. But like for example, if I'm living in an apartment and like something goes wrong and the personnel's in charge of fixing it, but I can't get in touch with that personnel, then the issue's not gonna get resolved, and I have to like depend on that one person for it to get resolved.
All right, moving on. Do you all think that student apartments should allow pets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Does it not really matter to you, or was that a firm yes?
I don't have an opinion, I guess.
Okay.
I think if they.
I mean, I want a pet, I don't wanna pay for a pet, I also don't wanna take care of the pet either.
But if an apartment complex
Like,
said
they're playing.
we allow pets, that wouldn't be like a
It's not really my
If
problem.
they allow.
As long as they allow the people to decide if they wanna live with the pet, like in their
Yeah.
room.
Okay.
You have to give people the choice.
So personal, like room preference,
Yeah.
And
but not complex wide. Okay.
I think it should also be like they have designated apartments for people interested in pets because some people's
Yes,
allergies are so
okay.
severe they
That's
can't even
interesting, yeah.
have previous pets in the apartment.
Okay. Should apartments require a cosigner or guarantor?
Yes.
No.
No.
Okay, let's go with the yeses first because I heard a yes first. So why would you say yes on that?
Because the majority of the student body that's coming into college and living are around 18 to 21 years old, or a little over that. And majority of them are not financially stable. So, I mean, we don't even have barely credit. So
Yeah.
we're gonna need financial stability regardless if we need to live anywhere. So this is more on like finance.
Okay. What would you say? Why would you say no?
It makes it really hard on people who are self-sufficient, like self-providing for themselves. Like people have I know people who have a hard time finding an apartment because they don't get help from their parents, so they don't have a cosigner.
Okay.
That's
And it's
what
a
a
lot to
guarantor
ask
is for.
another 18-year-old to co-sign with you.
Yeah, or to ask
Also
somebody
not
that you
good.
just currently find a person.
So maybe an option for not having that
Maybe
versus
like an
having.
exception. for
That
those
is an
cases.
option, because that's what I'm doing. You just put down like $1,000 when you sign, instead of having a cosigner. And that's like, if you default on a payment, they take it from that $1,000 that you've already put down.
So like a self-guarantor.
And yeah,
option as well.
and I think that should be, I mean, I don't think that
That's almost better.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, students should be exempt from that, because that's gonna be something, if you're buying a car, you're gonna need a cosigner. If you're buying a house, you're gonna need a cosigner. It shouldn't be different for, if you're going to be leasing an apartment, you should not need a cosigner, I mean, or a down payment or whatever, I mean.
I think a house and a car are more of a commitment than a 1-year lease. Especially at 18, 21-year-old, most of them are not going to be self-sufficient. Like you said yourself, I don't get money from my parents, so like everything, I've been making my own decisions. I've been self-sufficient since I was like 18. So if I would have had to have them co-sign something for me, it would have been a major inconvenience. Just having to coordinate with them to like get that to sign. I would rather just be able to do it on my own.
Okay.
And handle, if I can legally sign a contract and legally be charged as an adult in a criminal thing, I should be able to live where I want without having to sign or.
So maybe the option for both,
Yeah, sure.
I've experienced both, so yeah. Because like I wanted to co-sign at an apartment complex, but I knew I needed my parents' co-sign, and the fact that I had a co-sign did turn me away.
Okay.
And like right now, like my house does not require me to co-sign, so like that's the reason why. Yeah.
I have a question. Do you have to physically sign or can you electronically sign?
I don't think.
It's just kind of a general question.
In Texas, I physically signed and gave it to a landlord in person, but for this apartment, my roommate's parents own the apartment, but I electronically signed that. I think it's just up to the landlord or company.
Well, I'm just asking because if you had a co-sign and your parents had to come from out of state, that would be really convenient.
Okay, just a couple more now. So if you all have roommates, correct? None of you are living by yourself? Okay, so if your roommates wanted to move, but you did not want to, how likely are you to either stay or move out?
Or if they move out and no one else moves in, am I footing the whole bill? That's my.
Well, okay, no, so in this case, we're gonna talk about an individually leased apartment. So you're not taking the whole bill, they're gonna replace someone.
I think I'd try to.
You're staying?
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
I'm probably.
I'd probably try to leave with my friends, or if I did not have anyone else to live with, I'd try to live on my own instead of live with. I mean, could live with strangers, but like would rather not.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that's like one of the most important things for me is like who I live with creates like the home that you're building. So if it were some random person that I didn't even know, I think I'd probably leave or try to find somewhere else.
What about you?
I don't mind.
Okay.
It just depends on the person. Like
Just a preference deal again,
yeah. It's because like for me, it's like okay. It's like if I don't know you, and that's like there's definitely gonna be a lot of barriers getting to know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like to build a relationship, and if like the other guy, like the person's not trying, then the apartment should offer like me options. Like look, like I have a roommate that's not like we're not communicating well, or like because like if you are willing to put an effort to make a roommate or to even have a roommate. I mean just the term roommate, it requires a lot.
Right.
If they're gonna do random assignment, I think there should be a back out clause.
Yeah.
You could be re-randomly assigned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I feel like there's always going to be an open room somewhere that you can put something. Like they're never going to be over. They might say they are, but like.
Okay, and then probably should have touched on this way back, but it just kind of got lost. Now let's take about like an hour ago when we were talking about reviews. So you kind of touched on whenever you're looking at a review, it's what first pops up. So Google and Yelp stuff, what first pops up. Do you guys dig deeper than those first few? Like if there's 200 reviews on something, how deep would you guys